Have you ever had a moment where your body was trying to tell you something and you explained it away, ignored it, maybe? Like, I'm just tired. It's just stress. It's probably nothing. It will just, uh, take care of its own. And then the same signal shows up again in your skin, your sleep, your energy, your relationships, your work. And listeners, here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of us are trained to override our body. We push through, we self correct with caffeine, productivity, motivation quotes, or makeup, and we call it discipline. But what if the body isn't being dramatic? What if it's being accurate? Today, we are talking about why listening to your body never really fails you and how going to the root of what's really happening can simplify everything from skincare to business decisions. Yep. And I'm especially excited, listeners, because my guest doesn't just talk about this. She has lived it, studied it, built a company around it, and made the science feel human. Mireille Vega is a PhD biochemist, former biotech executive, and now founder and CEO of VGAM. She is known for pioneering what she calls Skin Science 3.0, a paradigm that sees skin not just as a surface, but as a living system shaped by hormones, stress, trauma, and lived experience. Her work has been featured in HuffPost and CBC's Dragon Den. Yep. And behind all that credibility, there is a story, personal crisis in her family, and her own health that didn't break her, but they redirected her. So, Meher, welcome to BizBlend, and I'm really, really excited for this conversation.
Wow, Sana, thank you so much. That was such a fabulous introduction. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here chatting with you.
Thank you so much. And Meher, I think people call you popularly Dr. Mimi, so I'm going to call you that. And
Perfect.
let's begin with our conversation um, because for anyone listening, I think let me clarify here, listeners, that this isn't just going to be just drink water or stay hydrated and meditate conversation. We'll be going deeper and we will keep it real. So let's begin. And Dr. Mimi, before we start, um, this phrase, listen to your body. Um, Maybe, some people will call it intuition. Some people will say data, and some will hear hype. So, uh, I mean, what exactly does it mean? Like, what actually we are listening here?
Wow, okay. You're diving right there. Okay, great. Well, it's a great question. Actually, for me, it really started with my skin. Um, and it's a journey, right? To listen to your body, to listen to your intuition, to listen to what your body's telling you is a journey. You ignore it, like you mentioned earlier, many times before you actually learn to trust it. And for me, I say it started with my skin because, it's been a life journey. I've tried to connect my understanding of the world, of health, of my body living in our environment, our evolving environment. So I've tried to connect all these elements together for many, many years. It became clear in my 20s that I had this ability to connect elements that people didn't necessarily see as connected, particularly in in uh, in science and in regards to the chemistry or the biochemistry of the body. What I mean by that is I was exposed to oncology a lot. Like, yes, health scares in my family. My mother, my son, my grandmother, like multiple people, like were affected, different degrees. And it's I saw I start to see trends. I actually had a career in oncology because of those, right? I really wanted to understand and go deeper. And
Mhm.
I always want to go to the root, right? Okay, is this a symptom or is this the root cause? How does it begin? Why does it evolve? And by understanding these aspects, well, then you can control what you can control and you can prevent what is preventable. So that has been kind of a life journey. And it certainly started with my skin as a teenager and then evolved with oncology uh, as a prevention measure. And then the more you dig and the more you make connections between organs, between your body and your environment, the more you realize that there are principles that apply to health, to longevity, to risk factors of developing a cancer or a cardiovascular disease or multiple conditions that are all the same risk factors and they relate to your lifestyle and to certain habits that we sometimes have we think are beneficial or are not and like or stress levels like there's multiple factors that are all interconnected and by understanding how to optimize your living and to listen to the signs that you may be disbalanced, then you can take action in a very like simplified and empowered way, I would say.
Yeah, def. The one thing I highly appreciate here is, Dr. Nini, that um, it's kind of a fuel, I think, a purpose for you because here there's a personal reason attached to this purpose. That curiosity to understand whether it's symptomatic or it's the root cause in there. I think that is something that kind of keeps it going on. Like it keeps the fire burning within you that you want to get to the deepest of it. So that is something that I personally very much appreciate. And of course, I mean, we will definitely explore more about this in the conversation. But one kind of question comes to my mind here, Dr. Mimi, that especially with patterns. Um, now, uh, as humans, we kind of, when we are consciously seeing something, we try to find patterns out of that and we try to make some conclusions out of it. But then over time, like especially for high performing people here, Dr. Mimi, what are two or three signals, maybe more than that, which are highly misunderstood or ignored until it becomes a bigger issue?
Okay, another fully charged question. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Purpose has been a driver for me forever.
Mm.
I always ended up in work that needed to be very grounded, helpful, and understanding how the body works in a healthy way is my passion. You're absolutely right. And like I mentioned earlier, it started with the skin. I had issues with my skin as a teenager, tried everything, became a chemist because of it. And I was convinced, and I did my PhD to actually develop a line that would be coherent and make sense for the skin. And I felt at that time something was missing, an element was missing. I couldn't understand I didn't have much experience at the time, and I thought, okay, the big labs are gonna find it, like because I really trusted, that space at the time, and then went on to study more the root cause because at that point, like there's timings in life where, like you have opportunities and I could dive deep dive into the world of oncology. And because I was exposed to not just one type of cancer, but multiple one, and then I was put in charge of a whole portfolio, I saw these these patterns, like you mentioned where like you would feel that uh, they kind of relate it, then you don't know exactly how. And, to come back to your question, like those patterns, those signals, like for sure, stress is one for high performing individual. Stress is one we tend to ignore or we actually drive on, right? The adrenaline, the fast pace. I've learned that it catches up, right? And this I've learned more personally first and scientifically. But for sure, yes, this is something that we tend to ignore. And it shows up very different ways. It shows up obviously in our body. This we need to listen to how we feel and being very self aware for high performance. Our high performers is very difficult because this is how we perform right at first, where we don't listen to these limits because we want to outgrow them, right? Um, but by being like going inwards, and if like in your body you don't feel it as much, like it's maybe like to go beyond the breathing and the meditation is really doing scans of your own body and being more present to the moment. And then, like once you're able to stop and listen in, then you start hearing a lot more, right? But if you are the type of person that don't hear too much what your body says, there's also your skin. And that's why I say listen to your skin, because your skin shows, well, one, what it needs on a daily basis, but even further than that, the symptoms it shows, the monthly breakout, they're relating to stress often. Like for women, well, they're also related to uh, um, a moment in the month where the hormones don't support, like much stress actually, but it is also relating to cortisol because it does affect those hormones. So again, everything is connected. So I think main signal, although it may be very light, is the skin. We never thought that we could listen to our skin. We thought that, oh, if I'm breaking out, I need to put something, on the breakout, or the eczema. If I'm flaring up, like I need to add an ingredient on the flare, and like this is what I need to do. But if you take a moment to stop and be in the moment, and notice that, okay, this eczema actually flares up when X, Y, and Z, right? There are patterns that come, um, and flares and stress again is very related, but there's also multiple types of stress on a body, right? Digestion is also another type, right, of symptoms or sign that you can listen to that can lead to more aligned living.
Absolutely. All of them are so much important to, first of all, begin with, because, a lot of thoughts coming to my mind. And I have been very open about, especially as you mentioned about eczema, uh, psoriasis, autoimmune or chronic. That's what we kind of call it. And I have personally noticed that the not the symptoms, but the kind of signals when it flares up, there are certain specific periods. It's not always every day, but very certain specific periods or time frames. Either I'm super stressed, or it's because of, maybe sometimes, I don't know, but with the environment as well, maybe the water that I'm using or I'm consuming. Sometimes it can also connect with food that I'm eating, but it's mostly because of, when I'm super stressed or when I'm having very less hours of sleep, then also it flares up. That is something that I've very consciously kind of, I've come to know about it, that it's not always that, it's trying to kind of defeat you in any sense, but there are reasons why your eczema or your psoriasis is flaring up. And then, of course, when it comes to specifically women, I can actually vouch for that, Dr. Mimi, that um, and those imbalances sometimes that can occur, there are definitely reasons behind it. So, especially for high performing individuals, I think that that stigma, that if you pause or you take rest or you do not do anything, then I mean their entire sense of worth and success is attached with the fact that taking rest is a kind of a crime that they are doing. They're hurting their own worth, their own identity in there.
Yes. Oh, this is a full. First of all, I think you are a very, very intuitive and conscious person. You've connected many elements that for me took many years to connect, at least scientifically. And you're right on. So for the first section of your your comment relating flares, and there might be like some light I can shed on like these intuition that you had. um yes, there are a connection with many of these elements. So on you talked about flares of psoriasis and eczema. These are two completely different mechanisms. Psoriasis, like you mentioned, is an autoimmune disorders. It affects your system. It's inflammation in the gut that are is very, very connected to this. But this inflammation actually increases or flares uh, with stress. Absolutely, right? It does affect stress, increases your cortisol. Chronic stress, particularly, a normal amount of stress is actually healthy, but it's when it's not managed, it becomes chronic. Then what the cortisol does is actually decreases the amount of your other hormones that are supposed to be supporting your other systems, right? So normal that stress affects everything, and particularly your skin, because the skin is very much connected to your hormone. For women, particularly, right? Your skin, like we talk about skin types. I don't believe in skin types. I think this is the biggest myth the industry has invented. There is one skin type, it's the one human skin. That's it. And this one human skin sometimes needs more oils because it produces more salts, or sometimes it needs more salts because it produces too much oils. And the skin has a tendency to produce more oils when we're stressed because of hormonal level, or when we haven't slept enough, right? So these are connected because the lack of sleep also creates a burden on the body. Yes, on the management of stress, but also on the repair systems, right? So it is all interconnected. And so when you see flares on your skin, whether it's eczema, which is, by the way, I didn't cover this, but the eczema is very, very much relating to the health of your skin microbiota, which is different than your gut microbiota. They talk to one another, but it's very different. So skin microbiota will be, like supported with, like healthy ingredients that will feed your ecosystem on topically on your skin, right? Your local immune system, but it is affected by stress too. So these microorganisms, your hormones, your metabolism, they all influence what your skin produces and what it needs on a daily basis. So it changes all the time. So to learn to listen to your skin is actually also a way to learn to listen to your body internally. Yeah. And yeah, and you also addressed identity. This is another another topic which Yeah, maybe take another, try at it later on if you want.
Exactly, absolutely. I think this is just the beginning here, listeners, to this conversation. And of course, Dr. Mimi, I mean, unfortunately, in the interest of time, we couldn't. I wish we could have gone on and on because this is such a vital discussion, specifically on this plan. And I hope that listeners don't take it as just a medical or more of a health episode, but this is equally important for all of our leaders, entrepreneurs, the high performing individuals, because after all we are all humans. So definitely, so Dr. Mini, before we wrap up, if our listeners, they would like to further explore, if they would like to connect with you, if they would like to share something with you, how they can do that.
Absolutely. Well, there's two main ways. If it's for personal direct contact, I'm on LinkedIn, uh, evidently. But there's also, we have a newsletter where we expand. Yes, we talk about the skin, but we talk about the seven, connections of wellness, of health. And we also go into the more business or personal, like listening to your skin, your gut, and like for your next decision, for your move, for your, like this is the type of decision that we take, all of us, on a daily basis. So we have information on that. If you want to get onto our newsletter, you get more info.
Absolutely. And listeners, to make it easier for all of you, I have all the links and details mentioned in the show notes. So find them attached along with this episode on whichever platform you are listening to your BizPlan podcast right now. And uh, uh, thank you so much, Dr. Mini, because I'm hopeful that this conversation gave all of us a language for something that we may have been feeling, but we couldn't quite explain. Uh, so thank you so much for bringing this up. I think this is the beginning. You brought science, you brought humanity, and what I am realizing is here that our skin, it isn't just a surface. Our stress isn't just life, and our bodies, it isn't interrupting our success. It's just trying to protect it. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's our biggest organ, our biggest protector. It's a double armor. Yeah. More on that, in the next phase, perhaps when my book is out.
Lovely, lovely. And thank you to all of you listeners for tuning in. And do follow BizBlend for more such conversations. Until next time, I'm your host, Sana, and this is BizBlend. I'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you.